One of Ukraine's most celebrated fighter pilots and two other airmen have been killed in a mid-air crash. Captain Andrei Pilshikov won fame taking part in closer-range aerial battles over Kyiv during the early phase of Russia's invasion, flying under the call sign Deuce. The three pilots were killed when two Il-39 combat training aircraft collided over a region west of Kyiv. The Ukrainian military called the deaths painful and irreparable losses. And the military paid tribute to him as a young officer with mega knowledge and mega talent. In an address, President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledged how much Pilshikov had done for the country.
An investigation is being carried out into what happened, and of course all circumstances will be clarified. Ukraine will never forget everyone who defended the free skies of our country.
Well, last year, Andrei Pilshikov spoke to the BBC about the work he and his fellow pilots were doing, especially the difficulty of shooting down Russian cruise missiles. Have a listen to some of what he said.
After school, I entered in the Air Force University. It was a dream from childhood, from the age of 5. It's my job, it's my mission. Intercepting the cruise missiles, your mission is to save the lives on the ground, to save the city. You're not able, it's a terrible feeling that somebody will die. Somebody will die in minutes, and you didn't prevent that.
Well, in that interview, Mr. Pilshikov was speaking to BBC Ukraine's Zhana Bezpiatchuk, and we can go to Zhana now in Kyiv. Welcome, Zhana. First of all, how important a figure was he in Ukraine?
He is really a unique fighter pilot and unique officer in the Ukrainian army. Andrei's story is extraordinary because he became the world global campaigner for F-16 fighter jets, modernized fighter jets for Ukraine, which are supposed to replace old-fashioned Soviet fighter jets, which are flown by Ukrainian pilots now. He also campaigned for the trainings for the pilots, and he fighter pilot managed to persuade decision makers in the US, in Great Britain, in the EU countries, why Ukraine needs as soon as possible these kind of weapons. He was very, very clear about that it's not possible to carry out effective large-scale counter-offensive and retake Owen lands without these kind of modernized fighter jets. He also used to repeat this message in his interviews, in the interview that we've done with him 1 year ago, that Ukraine needs to have F-16 also to protect civilian population from Russian missiles and drones. They fly in the sky literally almost every day and every night. And also he stressed in the name of all Ukrainian pilots that to have modern fighter jets in the fight with such army as Russian, that is armed with and has the modern fighter jets like Su-35, to fight with this army, the lives of pilots, they also matter a lot, and they depend again whether Ukrainian army has or not such fighter jets as F-16. So this was his message. Also, in the interview that we've done with him, he said some things that I remember now very well. They impacted, I think, many people in this country. He said that, you know, I'm a combat fighter jet pilot, and my main job, my main mission is to take tasks, to go on assignment, then come back to the base, and that's it. Although all these assignments are quite difficult and sometimes dangerous, but that's not enough in the time when Ukraine is in such danger, when Ukraine faces the Russian aggression, that you have to use every day, literally every single minute, to help your country. And he did a lot for the Ukrainian army. He combined different roles. He also supported the pilots of the military helicopters. He campaigned for the weapons for them because he said that they are often forgotten to some extent and neglected. So he did lots of things and was extremely dedicated to his job. We can listen how he spoke about it.
And Jana, as you were outlining there, he was a very experienced pilot. And of course, it takes a while to nurture and develop and grow that skill. How big a loss is his death, not just as a person, but in terms of Ukraine's talent pool?
Yes. You know, every single pilot in any army, and the Ukrainian army is not exceptional, has a very important officer, very important role. Unfortunately, Ukraine's Air Force lost already quite a number of its experienced pilots. Juice Andriy, his real name is Andriy. He has had this reputation of one of the most professional in the Ukraine's Air Force. So obviously this loss is felt right now by the Ukrainian army, and it will be felt by the Ukraine's Air Force every single day of this war when the country defends itself. And you know, now his friends, his comrades, they say that the first squadron of F-16 has to carry his name. His biggest dream was to fly one day F-16.
And of course, Jana, we mustn't forget the other 2 airmen killed as well. Of course, a loss of 3 pilots there. And how important is it for Ukraine to have people like Pilshikov as heroes to look up to in terms of morale?
Yeah, you know, Andriy, he was this kind of public figure, not just, as I already mentioned, a fighter pilot, whose opinion was very important, heard by Ukrainian public, by many people outside the country. International media often did interviews with him. And, you know, I know myself the examples when people had some doubts what, for example, the chances of Ukraine to retake territories, even if it gets F-16 fighter jets. He was this kind of person that was able to motivate and encourage others to believe. And he, in fact, is one of those Air Force officers that restored the faith and trust in Ukraine's Air Force. It's very important for this country, not only because of the large-scale Russian invasion, but we have to remember the history of Ukraine. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine, in fact, lost everything that makes possible the development of Air Force, funding, some bases. It was not able to sustain those Soviet fighter jets and strategic bombardment aviation, which it inherited from the Soviet Union. And in fact, this is the generation of pilots like Andriy that made people in this country trust and believe in their Air Force and in the bright future of this Air Force. And now I can tell you, nobody doubts that his dreams will come true to a great extent, thanks to Andriy.
Well, Jana, thank you. That's BBC Ukraine's Jana Bespiachuk there.